When you've lost everything, the path isn't clear. The forest is, gigantic, and you don't see where the path is to get through it. And I think the first thing you need to do is to really sit down and really trust yourself to others who can say, it's right over there. That's where you need to start.
What's up, friends? Welcome to the RE Junkies podcast, where we supply your regular fix of all things real estate. Make sure you're the first to get your dose of the RE Junkies podcast by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. I'm Brooks O'Hearn, joined by my co-host Kaiten Murphy, and we have a very special guest today, Tom Murphy. How are you guys?
I'm great.
Great.
I'm excited to be
Great.
here.
I'm ready to roll.
For those of you who do not know Tom Murphy is my dad and business partner. I think most of our listeners probably know by now, but if they don't, Brooks and I both have built real estate businesses with our families, which has definitely made for a wild ride and some very interesting stories. So a lot of those to come here in the future. But just for those of you who don't know Tom Murphy and all that he is obviously a husband. He's a father of myself and my sister, Ellie. His career has spanned helicopters, high tech with the world's largest cloud computing companies, private lending, real estate investing, you name it, Tom's probably done it and done it well.
Yes, he has.
And he and my mom, his wife, Laura, who also is a part of our real estate business, just built their dream home on 23 acres in North Carolina. And he has also been creating a vineyard and a little winery too. So like I said, you name it, Tom's done it. But welcome in, Dad. We're really, really excited to have you. I think that this is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I am very grateful to be here with you both. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, and obviously we just did your bio, but tell us a little bit about how you got started into real estate and kind of when this all developed.
Well, I think the real estate came about, as you had mentioned. I have been blessed with a corporate career that has enabled me to follow all of the passions in my life. So you'd mentioned helicopters. I had a passion for flying, I still do, and got my airplane licenses and things like that, and then had a chance to sell helicopters and traveled all of the U.S. and Canada selling helicopters to some incredible people. And my corporate career changed paths, and I got into high tech. And 15 years in high tech, enabling me to really meet some of the most incredible people at places like Apple and Amazon and Google and Facebook and Microsoft. I'm sure you all heard of some of those folks. But, I kind of woke up one day when I had hit 57, 58 years old, and I'm probably the same victim as many American baby boomers who woke up one day, wonder what my 401k looks like. And I checked the balance on it, and I'd been maxing it out every year and did the math and thought, I can live comfortably with my wife and probably buy and build some of the things we want to do, but what do I have to give to my daughters, our daughters? It scared me. I realized at that point in time that I didn't have what I wanted as a parent to be able to pass on to our daughters, to give them, you, Kaiten, and Ellie, a chance to be financially free. And so that really got into me. And at the same time, my wife, Laura, and I think you were even part of this, Kaiten, had found a speaker in town that had come in. I believe it was a fortune builder speaker or somebody like that. And we went, and real estate really kind of started there. It was like, hey, I can do this. I can't think of anything else that I can do at 58 years old at that point in time that's going to enable me to build wealth rather quickly. I certainly didn't have a longevity in a second career to span another 30 or 40 years, maybe, but there's no guarantee. And so that really woke me up and said, wow, I think we can do this. And the coolest part about it was, it's something I could do with you and your mother, and to some degree even Ellie, who's sitting in the background but absorbing all of this. The real estate really started there. We didn't know which direction we're going to go, but we knew that was the direction we wanted to pursue within real estate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we did attend that. I remember it was the summer before my senior year of college. And I was I was literally leaving like 3 days later to go back to college. And we attended the seminar, and that actually changed my path as well. So it's kind of funny that it had that effect in completely different directions for us, but it also brought us back together to start this family business. Brooks, how did you guys, how did your family get started, on a side note?
Very similar. However, I was the one pushing because I was already in college, and I was taking a semester off of school, and so I was the one that found the education and the event, and I actually, I said, I called my parents up and I was like, hey, you guys got to go check this out because I had already been, and then I was like, oh, by the way, there's a 3-day event coming up next weekend. And they told me that if you guys pay for it, I could just tag along and come with you guys. So just you guys go ahead, do that. You pay for it, and then I'll come with you. And then I made the pitch to them over the weekend. I was like, well, why don't we just start this business? I was like, you guys have all the money. I've got all the time. Like, let's just make this work. And they bought it, and here we are coming up on 10 years later.
They bought it.
Brooks, I've heard you've been a successful getting private lenders for your business, and that was your very first one, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. That was the first.
Getting mom and dad to buy the 3-day event.
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. Well, and we talked about this too with one of our other guests, Bob McIntosh, and that a lot of people kind of are like downers on the gurus and the education space. And there are a lot of people out there who promise a lot more than they deliver, but we all went through a program that ended up fast tracking our success in a lot of ways and introduced us to people. I mean, we probably wouldn't have met the O'Hearns that way. So I think that doing your due diligence on those programs is really important, but they can be very beneficial. So
yeah, I think you
Absolutely.
need to be really careful not to be oversold on them. Stay within your budget, because their objective, any of them, is to try to sell you on a program. But without a doubt, it was beneficial and turned us and focused us in the direction we needed to go, and gave us the resources we needed to really get started.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree with that. I think it's you got to be mindful of it, and then also understand that there is a large amount of work that you've got to roll your sleeves up and get into it, because it doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter where you come from. I mean, Joe down the street could own $10 million worth of rental properties, and that he may say, hey, I'll teach you everything I know. Well, that's great. But you also need to roll your sleeves up and get to work and do that.
Yeah.
So we'll dive into that in a little bit and talk to you more about you and your family. And I know Tom Murphy is not shy of rolling his sleeves up and getting to work.
No, he's not. Also, why is Joe always your subject whenever you have a scenario?
I don't know, actually.
Oh my God.
It's always been Joe my whole life, and now
I'm married to him.
yeah. I didn't even realize I did that. I did not
That's
realize I
funny.
did that.
It's okay. We know you like Joe better than me.
I do.
Anyway. All right. So let's get back on track here. All right. So you got into real estate, and we always kind of like to ask our guests, what was kind of that, we like to call it the pit, but what was kind of that moment where you're like, this is my low point. I don't know that I'm going to come back from this. Maybe I'm going to turn in the towel and go do something else. And, we'll preface this with, it doesn't have to be in real estate specifically. It can be in your career, but tell us what that point was.
Oh boy, I remember it distinctly. Probably the biggest life lesson I've had in my life thus far. So we'd gotten into real estate. We'd gone through the program. We're doing all the mailers and the postcards and doing all the things we're supposed to do. And we started getting some opportunities. We had the first opportunity come up. was a little 3-1. And then we started picking up more houses. And I think at one point in time, we had like 9 projects going on at once in different stages of flips and rehabs. At the same time, the company I was working for at that time had offered an incentive for older employees to do an early retirement. And I thought, that's probably going to marry very well into my real estate goals. So I took that early retirement and said, okay, we're going full time into real estate. So we had these 9 projects going on, and very few of them are going right. Most of them were going south rather quickly. And the stories, I think every investor can shake their heads and say, absolutely, me too. But I think one morning, and it gradually crept up on me, I started looking at the amount of debt that we had, whether it was from a hard money lender, a private lender, or something like that, across these 9 projects that were not going well. And it was somewhere north of $1.5 million. And I thought, I have no way of paying that. If these things started going south on me, I have no way of paying that. I'd have to mortgage my house. I'd have to mortgage my farm, our dream, and everything else. And it scared me. It's the first time in my life I've been in a situation like that because I grew up in a family, a generation where you always, you never have debt. You always have cash. You pay everything on time and all these other things. So I got scared. And so I really started searching. The first thing I did was start praying. And I'm a very strong believer in the power of prayer. Sometimes the answers aren't clear, and sometimes the answers come from a different place than what you thought, but they always come. And I remember searching at that point in time for just things that would change my mindset. I just was in a bad mental place, and I was probably not a very fun person to be around. Uh, and I remember the Morning Mindset was one of the books that I read and began to kind of adhere to what the author had prescribed, and his name escapes me. Forgive me for that. The other was Brendan Bouchard's Motivation Manifesto, which really goodness belongs to those who master their internal world, and that's what I realized. And I haven't mastered my internal world. I haven't mastered me yet. Brendan, I think in his 9 declarations in that book, number 3 was something like, claim your personal power, delay, doubt, and division are your biggest enemies. And I was guilty of all 3 of those. I hesitated on any decision to make. I doubted every decision I was going to make. And the division part is, and I tended to hole up and be alone and not really seek others because I was just afraid. And it was a humbling time. And after reading that book and the prayer and all these things together, I began to get out of that shell and realized I had to move, and I had to move forward for the sake of my family, sake of the business. I had to move forward. If it's going to be a mistake, at least I moved forward. And I made a mistake, okay, but at least I was moving somewhere. And I think that was the hardest place for me to go, is to really have the daring to say, okay, yep, you're $1.5 million in debt. You know what? So what? What are you going to do to get out of that situation? And what will you learn, going forward that puts you in a place that you're not going to be that uncomfortable again, or deal with it better? And so I look at that as for sure the lowest point in my life. And, not all those deals I spoke about went well. In fact, several of them, we lost money. The analysis that we did was not accurate on them. We did more repairs than we should have. We had a contractor steal $15,000 from us, and all these kind of things that happen to newbies as they're kind of going through the education and the lessons of real estate. But, when I look back now, the things I've learned from that, I'm blessed that I'm in a position now that I've had others come to me in similar situations, and I've been able to help kind of guide them through, here's what I did. And whether it's right or wrong for you, you can move forward, and there are people behind you that will support you and push you and embrace you. And you just have to trust them. Don't hole up and be yourself. Get within your network, find those people that love you and trust you, and hold on to them and help push you forward. There's probably, that story sticks out more than any, I think, in my entire career.
Yeah. Well, being a part of that, it was certainly an interesting time. And we always like to joke that while we didn't get rich off those projects, we certainly got rich in lessons from those
Absolutely.
projects.
Well,
We
that
learned
bucket's
a
full for
lot.
us.
Yeah, we learned a lot.
Got that
Yeah.
account charged
Yep.
up.
Oh yeah, surplus.
No, I've been there. I mean, the and like you said, every investor has been in a position like that, and I think, you're gonna have a lot of those stories that are born across the country over the next few years as things change and we get into some uncharted territory with some newer investors who have
Mhm.
never experienced a market like this, or don't have a mentor who has a market like this. But people always ask us, like, how do you know all these like weird things? Because I'll rattle off something so unique about something for them to look for. And they're like, how do you know this stuff? I'm like, oh yeah, flip number 7, this and this happened, and this is, now we're at, almost 50 flips in our career, and plus countless other wholesale deals. And it's like, of course I've seen all these freaking things. And so yes, you get rich in the knowledge, and you just don't make the same mistakes twice.
Right. Well,
Yep.
Laura, Kate, and I host a real estate meetup monthly, and undoubtedly, we'll have newbies that come in as well as a lot of experienced investors, and undoubtedly, every other one, I'll have one of the newbies come in and say, "How do you get started?" And I'll talk to them about what have you been doing, and we were guilty of this. We got all the education, we did everything, we kept doing it, didn't put our toe in the water, and really start that journey. And we all know that, and so we're to some degree the same thing. So it's really walking them through. If your dream's big enough, and you have a good reason why you want to take this journey, put your toe in and get it started, because it will bless you many times around. Don't hesitate anymore, and that's a hard
Absolutely.
step to take if you're on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I always like to say that real estate's a contact sport. And you just have to jump in and go.
Yeah.
There's
Pretty
no
good.
there's no other way around it.
Yep.
That's pretty
So
good.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
always say that.
Yep.
So okay, you're here, and you kind of talked a little bit about, okay, these are the resources I went to, and this is how I started to kind of pull myself out of this low point. But what were some of the aha moments, or the I wish I would have admitted this sooner or known this sooner kind of moments or lessons that you can pull out of that now, looking back and saying, okay, now I'm in a different place and I can reflect and take some lessons out of that?
Well, I think the aha moments for me were to get out of my shell and actually be grateful for the things that I had. That's the very first basic aha moment I had. And gratitude is something I'm really big about. There isn't a morning that goes on that I don't spend an hour before I ever look at my phone. And I sit down and I'm grateful for what I have: family, places to live, friends, the opportunities that not only are in front of me, but those that will be in front of me during the course of the day. And it changes the entire day right at the onset. So, probably the biggest aha moment for me, and I think it really stemmed through the power of prayer that I had, was recognizing, I'm a million five in debt, and all these flips are going sideways, and all I would do was wallow around in my own mud. And then I began just being grateful, even then, for things that I had. And all of a sudden, my head's above the water, and I'm looking around, and I'm starting to get flotation. I'm starting to move up. So it was a mindset. Not only personally was the first thing I needed to overcome, and gratitude was really the first big step. And the other piece of it was professionally, I learned to really surround myself with people who'd either been there or people that I know care for me. And I admitted, here's where I am. I'm scared. Here's what's going on. And you know what? Let's go have coffee. Let's talk through this, Tom. What kind of help can I give you? And so those sorts of things were, from a personal standpoint, a professional standpoint, were things you have to admit. And, as humble as, learn how to be humble. But, that gets you a long way. And so those are probably the two biggest for me from a personal and professional standpoint, getting, those initial aha moments.
That's
Yeah.
so weird to hear you say that you've worked so much on your gratitude, and like that was that was a spot of weakness for you, because ever since I've known you, and we've known each other now for 5 years or 5, 6 years, something like that. I've always known you to be very grateful for everything around
Thank
you.
you.
And so it's just it I personally have always thought that is one of your greatest skills. So,
Oh, thank you.
I can tell that it is a practiced muscle. We'll say that.
Well, the difference
Well,
came from, there's one thing to be grateful. It's another thing to be grateful from the heart. And those are very different.
True.
And so, and the person or the thing that you're grateful for, they recognize that. Uh, so I go through the course of the day, and I think that gratitude, whether it's in body language or some unforeseen force or whatever it is, I mean, you all be tuned into this. You've gone through that coaching on body language and things like that. I think it's picked up, and I think people genuinely appreciate it when you are truthfully grateful for something they have done, or something they're doing, or something they're helping you with. And for me, it was a difference of gratitude. It was a heartfelt, soul felt gratitude that really changed me. A genuine, maybe is the better word.
well, and it certainly comes across that way. I mean, obviously as a recipient of your gratitude, it certainly comes across that way. It's not just oh, I'm really thankful for you, or I appreciate you
Right.
doing this. It's, you do a fantastic job about that. And that's something that, I really, really respect and admire about you is um the way that you've grasped your mindset, and how much you also work on your mindset consistently. It You exude like a different kind of, I don't even know what the word is, vibe than most people that I talk to. And I think, it's funny, we'll be at conferences, or you'll come do something in Charlotte, and every single person that you speak to ends up coming back to me and saying, he's the best person I've ever met. Like, you can
Mm.
tell he genuinely cares, and you ask the right questions. So, I think that I admire that trait about you a lot. So, and I know that you've put a lot of work into that as well. So,
Well, and I have, but it's also been something that's enhanced our real estate career. I think, I look at where I am, where we are today in our business, even from a private lender standpoint. Um, and I know that we'll probably get into this subject a little bit further down the road, but I look at, what you're speaking to and about and things like that, and my mindset. It's a shame that people don't recognize at a younger age how to exercise their mind. I mean, I applaud both you all for going through the programming you have to begin to exercise your mind. We work so hard to run and exercise and go to the gyms and do all these things. And I think if we really sit down and are honest with ourselves, we would say, I did nothing today to really exercise my mind. Learning how to meditate and take everything out of your mind and be silent is the hardest thing I've ever done. Even that half marathon you forced me into, Caden, that was pretty hard. But but sitting down and really gaining control of your mind, it's fascinating to me at this point in time, but it's also been probably one of the most important things from a career standpoint, that at this point in time in my life, even, that has helped me move forward without a doubt.
absolutely. So for people who, would like to exercise that muscle a little bit more, where would you recommend someone starts with just kind of being able to take more control of their mindset, or, really soulfully express gratitude? Do you have any resources or anything that you can recommend, or
Well, I
practices?
think gratitude is a personal, yeah, I think gratitude is a personal exercise. And I think it really starts there and learning how to genuinely appreciate the things that you have, that we've spoken about that. I think that, I mentioned Brendan Bouchard's motivation manifesto. I think at one time I had actually started meditating. He has something called, it's on YouTube. It's called the release meditation technique. And I've always been big in meditation. I've got 2 black belts in martial arts. I've always been really big in mind over body control and things like that through that training. So I already kind of had that advantage, that I knew that the ability to blank out pain or discomfort and things like that, there's lots of ways you can do that. And so I recognized throughout my life that, that being able to control my mind was important. I just didn't know how to do it. And I think this has enabled me to do it. So I think the release meditation technique started me on my journey of clearing my mind, and I've since moved on from that. But it's really, for me, I set goals. I've recorded peaceful sounds, in my last 5 years life journey, whether it's a visit to the beach with our family, Caton. I'll sit out there and I'll record 30 seconds of the waves. So it's in my mind and it's in my heart. And the sound is something I remember. I remember sitting in that chair, looking at the beach and hearing those waves for 30 minutes, or a peaceful rain or something like that. And for me, clearing my mind, sound is good for me because I can immerse my everything that I have into that sound and actually relive that moment in a very peaceful place that I was when I recorded it. And that's really helped me. And recently I've been in just silent meditation where I literally just tune out everything that's around me and try as hard as I can for even, if you do a 20-minute meditation exercise, you'd be lucky to do a minute or two where you can honestly say, my mind was clear.
It's
Because you'll have
hard.
music in the background.
Yeah.
Really, and so getting better and better and better at it, I think puts myself in a mental state that's not only healthy for me from a physical standpoint, but healthy for me from an outlook and mental standpoint. It's brought a lot of peace to me, and even in my profession, it's brought a different peace in how I dialogue with my customers and the things that I do. Excuse me, even in my current profession in real estate as well.
Tom, I had absolutely no idea that you had multiple black belts. That's pretty freaking cool.
Add it to the list.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yep.
knew you knew
Okay.
how to kill people, but I didn't know you knew how to kill people without a weapon. So let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Watch that go viral. Tom knows how to kill people. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
That was a fun journey. I enjoyed that. That's probably 20, 25 years of dedication in the martial. I started at age 12 and just
Wow.
throughout my entire 20s and 30s played in the martial arts.
Wow.
Played.
Played.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just out for a play date.
So, all right. So we kind of talked about where you were. Let's talk a little bit about where you are now. What is a project or a goal that you're working towards in the real estate realm over the next year or two?
Well, it's really to grow. And I had, another aha moment not long ago when I realized, and one of my early goals in real estate after our fumbles and interceptions and everything else that went on with our first, several flips, I realized that I really wanted to be better at financing. I didn't want, I wanted more to have private lenders and less to have, uh, uh, hard money or traditional lending and things like that, at least on the purchase and rehab side of the fence. And I said, my first goal, this is a few years ago, is to have a private lender have enough confidence in our business and in me as an individual to lend the money for the purchase and rehab and closing costs, everything, to where I was zero out a dollar for that project and achieve that goal. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And so we've been very blessed that we have private lenders who have enough faith and confidence in our business to be able to lend to us and allow us to grow. So leveraging that and growing even that private lender base more so that the deals that we're going into, I like single family homes and we'll probably always purchase those, but I'm in the commercial frame of mind now. Looking for mini storage buildings. I want to step my toe in that water. Uh, Not too interested in apartment buildings and things like that, but kind of starting that commercial venture and learning how the financing works in that world and things like that. And the funny thing about it is, as I started that journey, I've had a couple of people come to me that have a lot of money that want me to help them find commercial deals. I had a guy that was introduced to me a few weeks ago that's got $25 million that he wants to invest in Charlotte, North Carolina, 30 minutes from the airport. And I have two of those. I think, my gosh, I'm not a broker, I'm not a real estate agent or anything else. It's just the words getting out that I'm in this real estate world, and I've just made really great connections. I've networked very well, which is probably the most important thing anybody can do. And so that journey's already on its way. That path is getting laid for me now, and it'd be really fun to see where it takes us, in that piece, because all the ingredients, the important ingredients, are pretty much there. Now it's just a matter of me finding the time between my current professional job, which I thoroughly love, and the requirements and education necessary on the commercial side. We continually have single family homes. We've got a portfolio of rentals now. We'll continue to build that as time goes on, and I can see that continuing to grow as well.
I want to stop really quick and highlight, first of all, you are probably one of the most masterful networkers and purposeful networkers I've ever met. And I think that, just as you said, that is one of, if not one of the most important skill to have, especially in the real estate industry. So how how has that come about for you, and what are you doing when you're like, what are you looking for when you're networking with someone or finding, a connection to somebody, and then how do you kind of nurture those relationships that you've built?
Do you remember the time we went to the event? I think maybe it was in Houston. Kate, and you and I were there, and they had a social hour. And as we walked off the elevator, we looked at each other, and I think you asked me, Dad, what's our goal at this networking event? And I said, we need to find a private lender. And so, during that whole networking event, we actually found somebody. We never got to the point where they lent to us, but swapped cards. They said, "Yeah, we have this much money. We'd love to lend to you," and things like that. So, in that particular case, it went with a purpose. And there are networking events where I have a specific purpose that I want to achieve, and it's a matter of networking with people, and oftentimes it's not the first or second person you talk to, but they'll say, oh, you ought to talk to so and so, he's over there in the corner with his wife. And then finding the right opportunity to be able to talk to that so and so and things like that. Also, I'm a private lender too, so that helped a lot in getting the private lender piece of it together. um, Having the confidence to be able to ask somebody for their money. It's not an easy thing to do. And you've got to have confidence to be able to do it. And those who gain the confidence of being able to do that, not with pride and not with ego, but with genuine confidence, are those who are successful. And so, um, I think the networking piece is without a doubt probably the single most important component of our success and our momentum. Where this journey is going to take us is coming because of those people in the network who are really pulling me personally and professionally and us as a business in directions that I didn't think about a year ago that I would go into. But I think the prayers are continuing to be answered. It's just, I got to get out of my own way sometimes.
Don't we all?
That's always the battle. Well, I think one of those things that you can look at, and why networking has been so powerful for you guys is, let's take the potential partner that you just mentioned, right? Has $25 million, wants to invest somewhere near Charlotte, within 30 minutes of the airport. And, like, in the grand scheme of things, what's easier, a setting up and actually making the $25 million yourself so that you can go invest in that, or connecting with someone and building that relationship, building that trust, who is then wanting to partner with you and bring
Right.
that asset to the table. And this
Right.
isn't
No.
to ignore any of the other education that you've gone through to bring a skill set to the table. I mean, for those listening at home, like we're not just saying, hey, go find somebody with $25 million and make them trust you, and then you're set in real estate. Like, you brought value to the table too. And so where you might not have the financial side to be a singular partner right now with that uh with that other investor, you've got the knowledge side.
Right.
And there are so many different ways, especially in commercial real estate, like so many different ways that you can partner with other investors. And I think I put together a short ebook on it, and like the 6 easiest ways to get started in
Mhm.
commercial real estate. All of them involve none of your own money.
Right.
Um, so and
Right.
and that's really cool. So I can't wait to hear more about that, and we'll have you back on once you get your first $25 million building.
I look forward to that for sure.
Let's touch really quick too on the private lending. So this podcast is, mostly real estate professionals. We might have, a couple others, but some are real estate agents who might not have any investing experience. We might have some people who are heavy on the investing experience. So let's just talk really briefly about private lending. Just quickly, what is
Okay.
it? What is the benefit of it? I guess on both sides, and then anything else you feel that's important to add.
Yeah, private lending, and I'll look at it both from a standpoint of what my goals are with the money that I'm lending others, and then understanding the goals of the others who are willing to lend to us. So private lending basically is, individuals, non-institutional individuals that have money, whether it's in a 401k or just cash in a bank, or they have access to money, their own money. And for a myriad of reasons, they may not want to go buy their own real estate themselves. Most of the private, a couple of the private lenders we have are in real estate, and they recognize the power of the lending arm, themselves lending. And I have one private lender who's not in real estate and doesn't want to be in real estate, but recognizes the lending potential, i.e., return, and and I'll say safety in a cautious way. Every investment comes with risk, and you can't control a lot of things that go on in an investment. So, you have to be cautious. But when you look at lending on real estate, if it's done right, and you put the contract together and you have the terms straight and you have all of the insurances in place and things like that, if the project goes south, you've got a lien on the property. So guess what? You now own the property, and it's probably already rehabbed to some degree or something like that. So it's already more than likely increased in value. And so, it's you kind of look at, okay, what's the risk in lending to somebody if it's done with the attorneys and things like that. So again, all the documents are in place. It's like, well, Jesus, yeah, there's risk, but it's in my advantage. Versus, the stock market dropped 300 points already today. And if I still have money in the stock market, well, I lost, and there's no way I can recoup that. I have to wait it out. And at my age, waiting out the stock market is not in my favor. And so, how do I find ways of lending? So from my standpoint, it kind of goes with what I just mentioned about the stock market. It's while we are diversified in our retirement, the lending piece that we have that we lend out, the returns are significantly better than what the market can give me. Uh, and as I mentioned, I've got a lien on the property, liens on the property, and things like that. And so the neat thing about it is we usually restrict the terms to 6 months or less. And so if the market takes a turn to the advantage, or I find another investment I'd really like to take part in, 6 months isn't usually going to make such a swing in that investment that I still can't participate in it. So I'm kind of picky in how we invest in it, but we're making 12% on our investments right now through my private lending. I don't think of too many. There aren't too many places where you can get that kind of return on a steady basis. In today's market or investing. And we pay the same thing to our private lenders, those who lend to us. It's kind of a mutual thing. We pay them the same rates that we ask others to pay us. But for me, it's something personal to me. I just had a hard time having debt into institutions versus an individual. It's crazy. A lot of people, it's exactly opposite. But for me, I'm a lot more comfortable uh, managing our investments through others, individuals who have money that they want to invest with us, rather than me going to hard money lenders or people like that. Just that's me personally. Uh,
I think the
Cool.
terms are a lot more flexible, and when you work with when you work with private lenders versus hard money lenders. I mean, hard money lenders like are necessary to usually to get your career started, but I mean, every time that we have had issues with lenders, it's generally been with a hard money lender, and them being maybe unwilling to extend or be flexible, or get a little toe outside of their box so that things can continue moving, right? I mean,
right, right.
we've had a project where a hard money lender made us they made us refinance the entire project, and we were
Mm.
already under contract to close with a
Wow.
buyer, and the hard money lender said, yeah, well, this was our term, and you guys are going to be 2 or 3 weeks past your due date, so you're going to have to
Mm.
refinance with another lender. And we're like, what? I mean, a private
Right.
lender would never do that. So
Yep.
that's the biggest difference for us, at least.
Well, when you're sitting across a table with a couple or an individual, they're putting a portion of their life savings um, in confidence to invest with you.
Absolutely.
Um, that's different to me. You're looking at them eye to eye and saying, you're entrusting me with a portion of a lot of hard work and some
Hmm.
potential sacrifice. And it makes me work harder. It's a little colder with, say, whether it's a bank or a regular hard money lender. They're valuable, and I'll never put down the value and the necessity of hard money lenders. But you brought up a great example. They're a little colder. I like the personal aspect of dealing with somebody that's willing to invest in us. And having that obligation and the trust they put in me is a motivator for me, bar none. It
Mhm.
motivates
Absolutely.
me to make sure that we do, everything to make sure that that loan is successful on time and
Yep.
successful with as little risk as possible with the lenders. And that's just, I enjoy living in that kind of world personally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It creates some really beautiful partnerships, and it
It
is
does.
it is really advantageous for both sides, and it lends the opportunity for, no pun intended, for flexible terms to work per deal and per partnership so that everyone wins, because I think that's something that the three of us all really care about, is making sure that
Mhm.
everyone at the table wins. So it is a really unique opportunity, and it's certainly something that especially investors, if you don't already have those partnerships, would definitely recommend seeking out.
Well, the
Absolutely.
blessings working with a private lender too are compounded. It goes beyond just the business deal itself. It's the people you're dealing with, and you become friends with them. You learn about them and their families, and oftentimes their troubles and things like that. They entrust in you because you've built this really trustful relationship with them and their money. And so, for me, there's a lot of gratitude in those relationships that I build with our private lenders, and very fortunate to have been, continue to be part of those.
Yes.
Is that gratitude again?
There it is. Just keeps coming up.
um, all right. Well, somehow we've already talked for 45 minutes. I don't even know how that's happened. So we're going to move into our final round of questions. We call this our lightning round. We're going to ask you a few random questions. You have not been prepped on any of these, so they're all just meant for fun. First thing that comes to mind, we're just going to take turns going back and forth asking you a couple questions. So my first
Cool.
question for you, If you could retire tomorrow, all finances, everything covered, what would you spend your time doing?
Helping others. I'd probably want to mentor in the real estate world and really help others get started. So mine would be around people, and really helping them move forward, whether it's financially free or a food bank or something like that. That's what I envision my retirement looking like, and trying to get this vineyard to actually grow grapes.
You had it at the last vineyard.
Yeah, this
Well, of
one's
course,
not
as
acting
soon as
right.
he got it up and running, he had to start all over again.
I
We
was gonna
sold
say,
it.
restarting a vineyard is not easy. So I'm just waiting for the call for the farm golf course to be done and up and running. So
Oh, it is done and up and running. And Caton's husband, Joe, can attest to it. He was out here yesterday, and he says, I don't know what looks better, the host country club for the President's Cup or your farm.
I love it.
In so many words.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I will be down soon to play that course.
That invitation is always open.
I love it. What are 5 things you could not live without?
Wow. My family, my God. I think the freedom that our country has, the blessings that I have from faith, being able to practice faith at will, and my friends. I just can't live without any of those 5. I wish it were more than 5, but 5 will do for now.
5 will do for now.
I love it. That is the most Southern gentleman answer I expected out of you, Tom. Right there.
Oh, that's funny. You've held a lot of jobs over your lifetime, but when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I hope you don't remember this story I told, but when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I told y'all earlier that I've flown and have always had a passion for aviation. And in my younger days, i.e., 4 or 5 years old, I wanted to be an airplane, not fly them. I wanted to be one. And I would run around the house with my arms outstretched and engines on each arm, and I was an airplane. I remember the day my mom and dad sat me down and said, Tom, you can't be an airplane. You can fly them. And I just went berserk. I said, no, certainly I can be an airplane. I remember that story, as really now as obviously like, wow, I'm certainly glad they convinced me, because that would have been a bad career.
Oh
my
my
God.
God. You changed your dreams, just not that one.
Yep. Yep.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I now that you say
Yeah.
it, I remember that story, but I did not
Yeah.
recall that when I asked that question.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Tom, if you could sit on a bench and chat with someone for an hour, who would it be?
Oh boy. Jesus.
All right.
Quick response.
Yep.
Easy.
I'd
I love
certainly
it.
like to have an hour with Jesus, and the good thing is I hope I'll have that hour one of these days anyway.
Yeah.
No time soon.
I was gonna say not for quite a long time though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. My last question for you. What is your all-time favorite book? Let's keep it real estate or business.
Oh boy. I think my all-time favorite book was The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's an ancient classic, but it really helped me. I've read it a couple of times, and it's been, as far as strategy is concerned and things like that, whether it's a business world or a real estate world, or obviously for the sake of warfare and things like that. But that's an ancient classic that continues to inspire me, or at least give me food for thought and things I may be encountering. And yes, that would certainly be my favorite book.
I'm pretty confident that you will be the only person on our podcast who ever said that.
Was that a challenge?
I don't know.
Could be.
I don't know. Okay. Our last question for you is, if you lost everything except your knowledge, what would you do in your first 30 days to close a deal?
Go find my network. and sit down with them and help, get started again with them. It undoubtedly be my network, just the knowledge of people that I've, developed relationships over the years. If I lost everything, I know they'd pull me out.
I love it.
How would you use that network? Are you talking like joint venture deals? Are you talking partnerships, or tell me more?
Well, I think first of all, it starts on a personal level. If I'm at where I've lost everything, you've got to gain control of yourself first, before you can go think about how I'm going to make money and things like that. So, I would seek out in my network those people who I trust enough to be able to sit down and just humble myself and say, here's where I am. And, do you have advice? What can you do to begin to build me back up? That would be my objective to myself. And I think with that, doors start opening, and then the deals start coming, and the opportunities start showing themselves. And then the path becomes clearer. When you've lost everything, the path isn't clear. The force is, gigantic, and you don't see where the path is to get through it. And I think the first thing you need to do is to really sit down and really trust yourself to others who can say, it's right over there. That's where you need to start. And then most of the time they'll probably hold your hand through and say, here, let me hold your hand, and you get started right there, and they'll give you a little push, and then off you go. So that's kind of how I look at that. But it started at the personal level, and then professional after that.
I love it. That's that's actually a bit of a unique way to take that question, and I love it. Most people have just our other guests have just been very, very tactical, and I mean, you're absolutely right. It starts in here, and so I love that. I love that. Thank you, Tom.
Great. Absolutely.
Always with the insight.
Thank you.
Always. Always that unique perspective.
You all pull it out of me.
We told you we would.
Again. And no, I'm not giving you any strokes on farm golf.
Just don't ask for any strokes from me either, though. All right, Tom. Well, we appreciate you joining us today. And those of you guys listening, thank you for joining us today. If you like this week's dose of the RE Junkies podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a crazy real estate story or a great case study, click the submission link in the show notes to be featured in a future episode. Submissions can be anonymous if you want. We'll catch you junkies next time on the only real estate podcast of its kind.